He was a Jew. And what did Jews do? They lie.
Stop it. Stop talking like a Jew.
Who was Adolf Hitler?
I don't know.
They're already forgetting.
Is he like a actor or someone?
Who's the guy with the mustache?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
You take him out?
I will shoot him and tear him apart.
Welcome to Rightly Divided. I'm here today with guests Tony Miano and Ray Comfort. Guys, thanks for being here with me.
Wow, I think that's the first time my name's ever been mentioned before, Rick.
This is... I was going right to left, like I was reading.
It's a John the Baptist thing.
Today we're going to be discussing the movie 180. It's a monumental documentary that just came out recently, put out by Living Waters Publications, and it's changing lives a good bit, and we're going to talk to Ray and Tony about how much so today. First of all, guys, I wanted to ask you both about how did you guys come up with the idea of doing the documentary 180 in the first place?
Well, I was asked to write a book by WorldNet Daily called Hitler, God and the Bible, and I was doing a video with it called Hitler's Religion. Took a camera, went out in the streets, and came back with 14 people on camera not knowing who Hitler was, which blew me away. I thought, what planet am I on?
All right.
And then I got footage of a guy named Steve, who was a black-hating, Jew-hating, America-hating, neo-Nazi atheist with a 14-inch mohawk, which is kind of colorful footage. Then we got footage of a German neo-Nazi who hates Jews. We got him on camera with a hidden camera, hidden microphone, and then another bit of footage that was just wonderful that I didn't seek out. It was a Russian Jew who'd lost loved ones in the Holocaust. So when I was making my way through the manuscript and weeping my way through the Holocaust, I found an incident where 300 Jews were shot and some of them were buried alive by Nazis with bulldozers, and that horrified me. And I thought, I'm going to go out and put people in that moral dilemma. So that's what I did. I went to many university students and said, a Nazi's got a gun pointed at your head. He wants you to bury Jews alive. If you do what he says, he's going to let you live. If you don't, he's going to kill you. Would you bury them? And they'd say, no, I could never do that. And I'd say, why? It's because I value human life. I'd say, well, how do you feel about abortion? And they'd say, it's a woman's choice. So I'd say, do you think it's a baby in the womb? And if they acknowledged it was, which most did, I'd say, one question that caused them to do a complete change of mind from being adamantly pro-abortion to being pro-life in a matter of seconds because of that one question. So we came back to the studio, looked at the footage and thought, this is nothing about Hitler. It's not Hitler's religion, it's a pro-life video. So we changed the title to 180 because it showed people doing a 180, a complete change of mind about abortion and about the things of God.
How important do you two think that this video is at this day and time?
I think it's very important, and the feedback we've already received is reflecting that. We now have over 830,000 views on YouTube. That means for the last 17 days, 34 people have viewed 180 every minute over the last 17 days. All of the feedback from the 180movie.com site comes to my desk, and it is well over 10-to-1 in favor of the documentary. And reading through those, seeing the testimonies of people who were the product of rape, who weren't aborted, and how Christ has come into their lives. Testimonies of people who have changed their minds about the abortion issue just by watching the documentary. And most importantly, people who watched the documentary believing they were Christians, hearing a clear presentation of the law and the gospel, and coming to the realization that they weren't until they saw the documentary. And so they're not only changing their minds about abortion, but they're coming to genuine repentance and faith in Jesus Christ. And of course, the gospel is always timely. We're not going to legislate abortion out of our culture, and simply changing someone's mind about abortion is not enough. I mean, if we convince somebody to go from pro-choice to pro-life, but we don't address their spiritual condition, they go to hell being pro-life.
Right.
You know, so while it is important, obviously important to save as many unborn children as we can, even more important to that is seeing that people come to genuine repentance and faith in Jesus Christ. And just in the first 17 days, we're seeing that God is doing that through the documentary.
Right. If you would just touch a little bit more on the feedback that you've been getting, has it been mostly positive, or?
Yeah, 10-to-1 positive. And the interesting thing about the negative comments we've been receiving, we like to refer to them around here as cut and pasters. people who really don't think through any of the issues. They just copy and paste what they see online and they put it into their emails and what have you. So it's the same tired arguments. Some of the more sickening feedback comes from people who refer to unborn children as parasites. It's nothing more than a parasite. It's no different than a flu virus in your body. And you know, I asked them the question, have you ever seen, you know, parasite on board placard on someone's car? When your wife was carrying your child, did you point to your wife's stomach and say, look at our parasite, look at our virus? Right. No, you refer to the child as a baby. Sadder still, though, are some of the commentary we're getting from people who profess to be Christians who hate the documentary, who hate the fact that we would include the gospel in an argument about the pro-life, pro-abortion issue, and people who claim to be Christians who are adamantly pro-choice, right. Which is completely contradictory. I don't see how anyone can be a genuine follower of Jesus Christ and support the murder of unborn children.
Right. Ray, I know some of the commentary questions that I've been getting, there's been some people who have questioned the use of reason in the video. I was just wondering if you might address that.
Yeah, Paul reasoned with Felix,
right.
Sin, righteousness, and judgment to come, in essence, and Felix trembled. And that's what you can make people do by reasoning with them and going through the commandments. What's actually happening is the conscience is being stirred up, because everyone has written upon their heart, you shall not kill. And that's really what's being addressed in this, even if it is in a roundabout way at the beginning of the documentary, and then more close up and in your face in the last portion. But you're talking about reactions. Someone wrote and said, Ray, you're a despicable little worm, which I found very encouraging because it's ad hominem.
Right.
They've got no argument back. And last night I took a moment to watch some YouTube videos reacting to 180, and they didn't have anything. These ones were coming on and saying, you know, this is beneath my even commenting on it. They talk about it for about 5 minutes, but they're saying they weren't commenting on it because there's no justification for the killing of a child in the womb. So the reaction has been interesting.
Right. Another, I guess since we're on the topic, one of the interesting reaction videos that I've seen about it is the whole conspiracy.
Oh,
oh, that's wonderful. I was excited about that. The close-up of the sunglasses, and
yeah,
you can see the cue card.
Exactly. See Elvis walking in the background as well?
Yeah.
What's the whole issue there?
The issue there is with a girl named Alicia. She stopped and looked to the side, and that's when they zoom up on her glasses. And then she said the words, wouldn't everybody? And she needed a cue card for those words, I guess. We're actually publishing the 12-minute complete witnessing interview with her as a comeback for that. We're going to include their footage and say, well, you be the judge if we use cue cards. But we've noticed a lot of comments saying we used actors all the way through. Well, they're pretty good actors. I must have shelled out a lot of money to get such good actors, because so it's because they've got no argument. Right. For abortion, and that's very exciting.
Right. So we've talked more about the reactions, but it's the reaction to the video, and the whole video seems to center around a certain question that changes people's minds. What is that question?
It's one question that caused people to become pro-life when they're adamantly pro-abortion in a matter of seconds. One question. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, and there's a reason for that. The reason is this. I've done a lot of sleight of hand or magic for kids, and I've watched the reaction. They go wide-eyed and their faces just light up with excitement as you're doing the magic. And if you show them how it's done, they go, huh, is that all? It loses its magic. And if I told you what that one question is, out of context, it would lose its magic. You've got to see the movie for yourself and see the people's eyes light up and widen and their faces change. It's like a magical moment for them. And so it's a free movie. It's on 180movie.com. Doesn't cost a thing except 33 minutes, and it's a roller coaster ride of emotions, and you won't want to stop watching it because it's very, very interesting.
That's true.
And so let that question be a teaser to pull you into it.
That's a good teaser.
You know, an interesting thing too, Ray mentioned the length of the documentary. What has surprised even us is how many people have watched this documentary. Most of the YouTube videos that go viral are only a minute or two in length, and they're either comedic or graphic in nature, but people are watching the entire documentary, and many are responding saying that they couldn't believe that it was 33 minutes long. And I think that speaks, you know, highly to not only the production quality, but obviously the subject matter. It captivates people's attention, it holds them, it grips them, and it forces them to come to some stark realities about their own lives.
Yeah, I totally agree. Whenever I watched it the first time, the thing that I noticed was, you know, I thought I just watched a 9-10 minute video, and then I happened to look down at the bar, and it was 33 minutes long. So it's definitely entertaining and captivating. Ray, why do you feel so strongly about abortion?
Many years ago, someone came up to me and said, Ray, which is my name, that's why they said that. That lady, Fran, she's having an abortion. I said, when? They said, this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And it was about 11 or 12 o'clock. So I jumped in my vehicle, drove like a maniac into town, praying all the way that God would give me wisdom how to talk this woman out of this thing. Ran into the hospital, up to the 2nd floor, ran into her room. She was sitting on a bed. She'd already had her pre-operation medication. I just looked at her, had no words of wisdom. I said, please don't do this. She looked back at me, smiled, and said, it's okay, I'm not going to have an abortion. She says, I just prayed, God, if you don't want me to have an abortion, make Ray Comfort come up and see me. I didn't have to say a word. I just said, well, it's me. And I left.
Wow.
2 years later, I was at a church picnic, and there was this woman, Fran, sitting there, and in front of her, about 10 feet in front of her, was this little kid in the grass, little girl. And I went up the little kid, and I reached out and went, you know how we do with kids. And why do we do that?
I have no idea.
And I looked her in the eyes, and I realized what's involved with this whole thing. You know, this is a human life we're talking about. Genesis 9:6. It says, if you take someone's life, if you shed blood, your blood will be shed, for he is made in the image of God. You cannot murder a horse or a dog or a cat. You can kill them, but you cannot murder them. That word is reserved for human beings because we are made in the image of God. We have a sense of justice and righteousness and truth. So when someone takes the life of a baby in the womb, they're not killing them, they're murdering them, they're violating the 6th commandment, and God will hold them responsible. So as Christians, each of us should be horrified for what's happening and for the fate of that person for what they've done. So that's my motivation with this thing. I feel so strongly. I feel like a German in Germany when the concentration camps were just across the road, and no doubt many Germans, many good Germans lost their lives because they stood outside of a concentration camp and said, what's going on in there? Or they wrote a letter to the paper or published something, and they lost their lives because they spoke up for righteousness. We don't need to pay such a cost. We can email 180movie.com, Facebook it, or tweet it, and it's going to have an effect. We can speak up without fear of repercussions. So that's what we're doing, and we're giving away a few.
Yeah, just a few. We're later this year, we're not going to give out the date, we're going to about 120 universities across the United States, Canada, and New Zealand. And in one day, we're going to distribute about 215,000 copies of the documentary. We already have the teams in place. In fact, as we speak, they are starting to receive those DVDs. And we're going to go right to the heart of where, for the longest time, the battle has been lost. And that's been on high school and college campuses, where kids are being indoctrinated to believe that what a woman carries in her womb is a human being, is a child. This parasite and virus rhetoric is coming off of school campuses. And so we're going to go right to the heart of where the battle has been lost for so long, and we're going to fight back. We're going to fight back not only with the truth about what abortion is, but with the truth of the gospel, which is, of course, the most powerful message.
Mm-hmm. We have another website too called heartchanger.com, where people can get a 180 course that Randy Elkhorn, Kay Arthur, and myself put together. It's got DVDs, and it's got a study guide, a 64-page study guide, teaching people how to use these principles and how to evangelize biblically. And thousands of people are learning at this moment how to use those principles. They're not hard. They're very simple. Anyone can do them once you understand these principles. You can see people change their minds about abortion, and you can learn to address the conscience by just following a certain pattern, and that pattern is taken off Scripture. So that's heartchanger.com.
Okay, and I'll definitely put the links to all that in the
that's great. And those
video
videos, they're $1 each. They're not like $10 each, so people can
great.
afford to get them. You can get 10. I gave 100 out around our neighborhood. You gave out around your neighborhood.
Close to 100, yeah.
Yeah, so it's and
learned I had a neo-Nazi living nearby.
Really?
Oh yeah, that was interesting. You know, and in fact, yesterday we had a church in Idaho, small church in Idaho, order 16,800 copies of the documentary to give one to every home in their county. Wow. And so we're hoping that the church will stand up and follow that kind of lead. Another reason why this is so important is because, you know, judgment begins with the household of God. And granted, the American church has tried to do much to stem the tide of abortion. But there are many, many Christians around the country who are voting pro-choice. They say that they're pro-life, but yet when they cast their ballots, they're voting for pro-choice candidates because they say they're voting for the lesser of two evils. Anytime you vote for the lesser of two evils, you're voting for evil. It's as simple as that. Right. You know, I get asked all the time, what are you saying, Tony? Are you a one topic, one subject, one issue voter? Absolutely. If a person is not completely pro-life, if they are for abortion in any way, they don't get my vote. And if there's no one to vote for that fits that criteria, I don't vote. That is my casting of my vote by saying I will not give you my vote. But yet, in the last election here in California, the governor's election, I know of Christian parents who are sending their children door to door to solicit support for an allegedly conservative candidate who was pro-choice. Christian parents, because they didn't want to vote Democrat, they wanted to vote Republican, sending their children door to door to vote for someone who was pro-choice. So they'll send their children door to door to solicit votes for death, but they won't send their children door to door to present the gospel of life, you know, to their neighbors.
Interesting, very interesting. You guys have had contact with a lot of people in open air situations. Have you ever met somebody in an open air situation who was for abortion who also believed that they should have been aborted as well? They were pro-choice, but if they were consistent, they would say, you know, I want to. My mother should have been consistent and, you know, aborted me as well.
I haven't met someone like that in the open air, but through 180movie.com, through the feedback, I've had dialogue with a young man who was, his father was a rapist. His biological father raped his mother. His mother apparently died as a result of complications of that rape, and his wish was that she would have aborted him to spare her own life. And obviously hurting on many levels. I don't know how old this person is. You know, I just know him by email, but you know, I've been sharing the gospel with him and trying to reason with him. Right. Have you ever run into someone like that in the open air?
No, but I've run into a lot of characters.
Also in the description of this video, I'm going to put the link to the actual 180 movie. For churches and different people around the nation who want to get this into their church and get it out in the public, what are some ways they could do that?
We've had a number of pastors who are actually showing it as a Sunday morning service, cancelling their preaching just to show this because they see it's that important, and we know the preaching is so important. One pastor introduced it by saying, you don't watch 180, you experience it, which is true. It's a roller coaster ride of emotions. And he said that people just sat there stunned afterwards. So that's one thing they can do. You can do what the church is doing in Idaho, do your whole town, do your whole city. Do the 180 course, train your people up to become laborers, teach them how to evangelize biblically, so you get genuine church increase instead of musical pews. And teach them how to stand up for this issue of abortion, because if we don't stand up, nobody's going to. Abortion has a huge impetus. A lot of people don't realize why Adolf Hitler was so zealous in the killing of the Jews. They don't know what his motivation was. There's theories that he was jealous, that he was angry because he got VD from a Jewish prostitute, all this sort of stuff. I think he had a motivation that's hardly ever looked at, and that is every Jewish family he killed, it was a great source of income for him, especially wealthy Jews. He'd get their house, he'd get their car, he'd get their savings, he'd get their paintings, he'd get the gold from their teeth, he'd get the hair from their head. So every Jewish family he killed, it was a tremendous source of income to a point of being billions of dollars, where 1/3 of his war effort was financed by Jewish blood. The abortion industry has exactly the same motive. Wow. If you don't believe it, just go to your local website for your abortion clinic and look at their prices. For a 16-week-old baby, it will cost you about, I think about $500 or $600 to have the baby killed. But for a 19-week baby, 3 times the amount. It's something like $2,100. And it's good money because in 15 to 20 minutes they just suck off the head, the arms, the legs, compile them to make sure they've got them all, drop them in a trash bin, and you have reaped in $2,100 in that short period of time. So the love of money is still the root of all evil, and that's why we see so many who are so zealous. You think, what is driving these women to push political candidates to be pro-abortion? Why do they get out there with the pro-choice signs? They're angry, and anyone that stands up for the life of children are demonized. Well, it's that same impetus that pushed Hitler to do what he did.
Right.
You know, it's interesting too. Make no mistake about it. Those who are within the pro-murder, pro-abortion industry, who are making all this money, they know they're taking a human life. There's no doubt about it. I received an email, again, feedback through the 180 site, from a lady who, now older, but as a teenager, had an abortion. And she was hesitant about it, but the doctors and nurses assured her that it was just a blob of tissue. It wasn't human. And then when they aborted the baby, they asked her, do you want to know if it was a boy or a girl? So they knew they were not aborting a blob of tissue. They were aborting a boy or a girl. And they're in it for the money. God have mercy on their souls.
Guys, that's a very sobering thought, but it's a very sobering subject as well. Do you guys have any thoughts that you'd like to end on?
Well, I would just encourage our brothers and sisters in Christ who are going to watch your show, this episode, to stop asking yourself what can be done about the abortion issue and look in the mirror and ask yourself, what can I do? And one of the things you can do is help us get this message out that's in the documentary 180, not only the message to save unborn children, but the message to save souls, the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and you have the answer at your fingertips. Facebook, Twitter, whatever, email, just send it to everyone you know, your friends, your family, your enemies, your boss, your co-workers, and just say, I've seen this video, it's an award-winning video, it's going viral on the internet, watch it and let me know your thoughts.
Well, guys, I appreciate you letting me come by and doing this interview.
Thank you, sir.
It's wonderful having you guys on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lenzine, you just seen 180. What do you think?
I loved it. It's thought-provoking, it's convicting, and it shows you the heart of the people in this earth.
Would you vote for someone who is pro-abortion?
Yeah.
So have you just changed your mind about abortion?
Yes, I have. It was very powerful, very moving.
I wish I had it available for my granddaughter because she just had a late-term abortion, and it tears me up that she'd done this.
I loved it, and I want to get lots of copies of it.
I believe that people have the right to choose.
So have you just changed your mind about abortion?
Yes, I've just changed my mind.
Are you going to vote differently in future?
Yeah.
You mean that?
Yeah.
Very touching.
Eye-opening. It was devastating.
This is a powerful, powerful message, and it's a must-see for everybody.
It was life-changing and world-changing.
I think it's one of the most incredible tools I've ever seen.
All I can say is I want to be involved in handing it out to as many people as I can.
Go to 180movie.com for details.